Hello, all you beautiful people out there, and welcome to Saturday Livestream. First things first, if you've ever been to one of these, you know that I pick a comment of the week. And that's always the first thing we start off with on Saturday Livestream. And today's comment of the week goes to Sketches. It is under Who is Asherah? And they say, Hi, I have just been searching the internet for the meaning of the word Asherah. I was around 2 hours into lotus seated meditation and I asked for my higher self name or anyone's name to see if I am on the right path. And the name Asher was spoken to me. I honestly have never heard of this name, and I am now trying to find as much information on what it means. Any help would be very appreciated. Thank you very much, Sketches. I will dig into it and see what I can find. And congratulations for getting comment of the week. Okay, now we have Today in History. Got a bit of a fun one. The Pony Express debuts. On April 3rd, 1860, the first Pony Express mail, traveling by horse and rider, relay teams, simultaneously leaves St. Joseph, Missouri and Sacramento, California. 10 days later, on April 13th, the westbound rider and mail packet completed the approximately 1,800-mile journey and arrived in Sacramento, beating the eastbound packet's arrival in St. Joseph by 2 days and setting a new standard for speedy delivery. Jesus, just a minute, people. Sorry about that. I really hate those commercials. I have no idea how to get them off of here. Although ultimately short lived and unprofitable, the Pony Express captivated America's imagination and helped win federal aid for a more economical overland postal system. It also contributed to the economy of the towns on its route and served the mail service needs of the American West in the days before the telegraph or an efficient transcontinental railroad. The Pony Express debuted at a time before radios and telephones, when California, which achieved statehood in 1850, was still largely cut off from the eastern part of the country. Letters sent from New York to the West Coast traveled by ship, which typically took at least a month, or by stagecoach on the recently established Butterfield Express Overland route, which could take from 3 weeks to many months to arrive. Compared to the snail's pace of the existing delivery methods, the Pony Express's average delivery time of 10 days seemed like lightning speed. And then, of course, there's some other stuff, but I'm not going to go into it. But yeah, uh, so that was kind of interesting. Um, I thought it was anyway. Hi, Lisa. How's it going? So, you know, um, if I don't find something interesting, I usually don't do Today in History, but I found that interesting. So, let's get on with the topic of today. And the topic of today is making fun of the Bible. Yes. And today it is Leviticus 16 through 22. So the Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron, who died when they approached the Lord. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell your brother Aaron that he is not to come whenever he chooses into the most holy place behind the curtain in front of the atonement cover on the ark, or else he will die. For I will appear in the cloud over the atonement cover. This is how Aaron is to enter the most holy place. He must first bring a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He is to put on the sacred linen tunic with linen undergarments next to his body. He is to tie the linen sash around him and put on a linen turban. These are sacred garments, so he must bathe himself with water before he puts them on. From the Israelite community, he is to take 2 male goats for sin offering and a ram for burnt offering. Hey, Mr. Shadow Kitty, what is up with all of this killing of animals, God? I mean, seriously. Verse 6, Aaron is to offer the bull for his own sin offering to make atonement for himself and his household. You guys know what I think about sin. It's a made up concept. Verse 7, then he is to take the 2 goats and present them before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting. He is to cast lots for the 2 goats, 1 lot for the Lord and the other for the scapegoat. I thought gambling was against God's law. Just saying. Verse 9, Aaron shall bring the goat whose lot falls to the Lord and sacrifice it for a sin offering. But the goat chosen by lots as the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord to be used for making atonement by sending it into the wilderness as a scapegoat. I have absolutely no idea what this ritual is supposed to accomplish. No idea whatsoever. Verse 11, Aaron shall bring the bull for his own sin offering to make atonement for himself and his household, and he is to slaughter the bull for his own sin offering. He is to take a censer full of burning coals from the altar before the Lord and 2 handfuls of finely ground fragrant incense and take them behind the curtain. Oh, gee. By the way, please don't go behind the curtain. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. For those of you who don't get it, that's a Wizard of Oz reference. Verse 13, he is to put the incense on the fire before the Lord, and the smoke of the incense will conceal the atonement cover above the tablets of the covenant law, so that he will not die. Am I the only one who this isn't making sense to? Hey, Marianne. He is to take some of the bull's blood and with his finger sprinkle it on the front of the atonement cover. Then he shall sprinkle some of it with his finger 7 times before the atonement cover. He shall then slaughter the goat for the sin offering for the people and take its blood behind the curtain and do with it as he did with the bull's blood. He shall sprinkle it on the atonement cover and in front of it. In this way he will make atonement for the most holy place because of the uncleanness and rebellion of the Israelites. Way to put them on a guilt trip, God.
Huh? Oh.
Whatever their sins have been, he is to do the same for the tent of meeting, which is among them in the midst of their uncleanness. No one is to be in the tent of meeting from the time Aaron goes in to make atonement in the most holy place until he comes out, having made atonement for himself, his household, and the whole community of Israel. Then he shall come out to the altar that is before the Lord and make atonement for it. He shall take some of the bull's blood and some of the goat's blood and put it on all the horns of the altar. He shall sprinkle some of the blood on it with his finger 7 times to cleanse it and to consecrate it from the uncleanness of the Israelites. I'm sorry, but to me this just reads like a horror book. And not a very good horror book at that. Verse 20. When Aaron has finally finished making atonement for the most holy place, why does he need to make atonement for the most holy place? That didn't make any sense. The tent of meeting and the altar, he shall bring forward the live goat. He is to lay both hands on the head of the live goat, and confess over it all the wickedness and rebellion of the Israelites, all their sins, and put them on the goat's head. That's kind of unfair to the goat, isn't it? Ugh. He shall send the goat away into the wilderness in the care of someone appointed for the task. The goat will carry on itself all their sins to a remote place, and the man shall release it in the wilderness. Again, what is the point of this ritual? Then Aaron is to go into the tent of meeting and take off the linen garments he put on before he entered the most holy place, and he is to leave them there. He shall bathe himself with water in the sanctuary area and put on his regular garments. Then he shall come out and sacrifice the burnt offering for himself and the burnt offering for the people, to make atonement for himself and for the people. He shall also burn the fat of the sin offering on the altar. You know, God, all of these animals would make perfectly good food for the people, especially at a time when people didn't know when they're going to get their next meal because they have no idea about what's going to happen tomorrow. Kind of like we are today. Verse 26. The man who releases the goat, of course it's the man, because it always has to be the man. The man who releases the goat as a scapegoat must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. Afterward, he may come into the camp. The bull and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought into the most holy place to make atonement, must be taken outside the camp. Their hides, flesh, and intestines are to be burnt. Hang on, guys. Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah.
Where was I?
All right.
I don't even know. This is just so confusing. I swear. Maybe that's why Christians don't read their own damn book. Okay, 29. This is to be a lasting ordinance for you on the 10th day of the 7th month. You must deny yourselves and not do any work. Deny yourselves by not doing any work. Actually, that's called a vacation, God. Whether native born or a foreigner residing among you. Because on this day, atonement will be made for you to cleanse you. Then before the Lord you will be clean from all your sins. It is a day of Sabbath rest, and you must deny yourselves. It is a lasting ordinance. The priest who is anointed and ordained to succeed his father as high priest is to make atonement. He is to put on the sacred linen garments and make atonement for the most holy place, for the tent of meeting and the altar, and for the priests and all the members of the community. This is to be a lasting ordinance for you. Atonement is to be made once a year for all the sins of the Israelites. And it was done as the Lord commanded Moses. I'm telling you, this is, like I said, this is just bizarre. Chapter 17. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to Aaron and his sons and to all the Israelites and say to them, this is what the Lord has commanded. Any Israelite who sacrifices an ox, a lamb, or a goat in the camp or outside of it, instead of bringing it to the entrance to the tent of meeting to present it as an offering to the Lord in front of the tabernacle of the Lord." You know, God, you can do with a lot less words. I mean, you really can. Not that I believe that God ever spoke this, because I don't believe in the Bible God, but that's another story. That person shall be considered guilty of bloodshed. They have shed blood and must be cut off from their people. Huh? This doesn't make any sense. This is so the Israelites will bring to the Lord the sacrifices they are now making in the open fields. Well, God, if it's acceptable for them to make the sacrifices in the open fields now, why is it unacceptable after this to make sacrifices in the open fields? It doesn't make any sense. They must bring them to the priest, that is, to the Lord, at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and sacrifice them as fellowship offerings. The priest is to splash the blood against the altar of the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting and burn the fat as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Verse 7, they must no longer offer any of their sacrifices to the goat idols to whom they prostitute themselves. This is to be a lasting ordinance for them and for the generations to come. I would make a snarky comment about Baphomet, but Baphomet didn't exist in this time period, so I'll just save that for later. Verse 8, say to them, any Israelite or any foreigner residing among them who offers a burnt offering or sacrifice and does not bring it to the entrance to the tent of meeting to sacrifice it to the Lord must be cut off from the people of Israel. Of course, because the priests want power over the people. That's what this is all about, people. That's what this is all about. Power. Verse 10. I will set my face against any Israelite or any foreigner residing among them who eats blood, and I will cut them off from the people. For the life of a creature is in the blood, and I have given it to you to make atonement for yourselves on the altar. It is the blood that makes atonement for one's life. Therefore, I say to the Israelites, none of you may eat blood, nor may any foreigner residing among you eat blood. This is where the Jehovah's Witnesses get the idea of the you can't have a blood transfusion even to save your life. Okay? First of all, it is absolutely, positively ridiculous to read this as anything against that of actually eating blood. Okay? Because, first of all, blood transfusions didn't even exist at this time. Okay? The second thing that is absolutely positively ridiculous is that any medical professional is going to tell you a blood transfusion isn't anything like eating blood, because the blood for a blood transfusion is not and never will be sustenance the way food is. It's to save your life. And the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses has so much blood on their hands that I'm not even gonna. It's just disgusting. It is disgusting. Hi, Nevermore. Verse 13. Any Israelite or any foreigner residing among you who hunts any animal or bird that may be eaten must drain out the blood and cover it with earth, because the life of every creature is in its blood. And this is exactly the explanation of not eating blood. This is about draining blood out of carcasses before you eat them. It's not about blood transfusions. Verse 14. Because the life of every creature is its blood. That is why I have said to the Israelites, you must not eat the blood of any creature, because the life of every creature is its blood. Anyone who eats it must be cut off. Anyone, whether native born or foreigner, who eats anything found dead or torn by wild animals must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be ceremonially unclean till evening. Then they will be clean. But if they do not wash their clothes and bathe themselves, they will be held responsible. That doesn't make any sense at all. No sense whatsoever. If somebody comes across a carcass that has been, like torn apart by a wild animal, which is almost guaranteed not to happen very often, because wild animals are not by their nature disposed to leave much of anything once they kill another animal. But why waste the meat of this animal if there is any meat left on the animal? Why are you going to waste it? Especially if you're hungry. This is ridiculous. Chapter 18. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, I am the Lord your God." We get it, God. You don't have to keep telling us. You must not do as they do in Egypt, where you used to live, and you must not do as they do in the land of Canaan, where I am bringing you. Do not follow their practices. You must obey my laws and be careful to follow my decrees. I am the Lord your God. Keep my decrees and laws, for the person who obeys them will live by them. I am the Lord. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? I'm sorry. Verse 6. No one is to approach any close relative to have sexual relations. That's probably one of the very few good advices in the Bible. Verse 7. Do not dishonor your father by having relations with your mother. She is your mother. Do not have relations with her. Do not have relations with your father's wife. That would dishonor your father. Do not have relations with your sister, either your father's daughter or your mother's daughter, whether she was born in the same home or elsewhere. Do not have relations with your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter. That would dishonor you. Do not have relations with the daughter of your father's wife born to your father. She is your sister. Technically half sister, but yes. Verse 12. Do not have relations with your father's sister. She is your father's close relative. Do not have relations with your mother's sister, because she is your mother's close relative. Do not dishonor your father's brother by approaching his wife to have relations. She is your aunt. Do not have relations with your daughter-in-law. She is your son's wife. Do not have relations with her. Do not have relations with your brother's wife. That would dishonor your brother. Except, I guess, if your brother dies without any children, then it's acceptable to have sex with his widow. Do not have relations with both a woman and her daughter. Do not have relations with either her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter. They are her close relatives. That is wickedness. Do not take your wife's sister as a rival wife and have relations with her while your wife is living. Do not approach a woman to have relations during the uncleanness of her monthly period. And now we get into the misogyny yet again. Verse 20. Do not have relations with your neighbor's wife and defile yourself with her. Do not give any of your children to be sacrificed to Molech, for you must not profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. That's a very weird thing to just throw in there among the don't have sex. I mean, it's one verse. I swear to you, it's one verse. And then the very next verse says, do not have relations with your neighbor's wife. Oh, hang on. So then, so the out of place verse is don't give your children to be sacrificed to Moloch. Okay. So then the very next verse says, don't have relations with a man as one does with a woman. That is detestable. Oh, God. So what does Molech have to do with any of this shit? Um, verse 23. Do not have relations with an animal and defile yourself with it. A woman must not present herself to an animal to have relations with it. That is a perversion. Do not defile yourselves in any of these ways, because this is how the nations that I am going to drive out before you became defiled. Even the land was defiled. How could the land be defiled? I reject the concept of sin outright. Okay, so I reject the idea that that anyone can sin, you know, but the land can't sin. So how can the land be defiled? That just doesn't make any sense. Alrighty. Uh verse 25. Even the land was defiled. So I punished it for its sins. How? And the land vomited out its inhabitants. Um, yeah, sure, God. They probably mean the Bronze Age collapse, because this is well after the Bronze Age collapse. But it's not like, the land was left inhabitantless. It was just there weren't any cities. Verse 26. But you must keep my decrees and my laws. The native born and the foreigners residing among you must not do any of these detestable things, for all these things were done by the people who lived in the land before you, and the land became defiled. He still hasn't explained how that's happened, but anyway, verse 28. If you defile the land, it will vomit you out as it vomited out the nations that were before you. Everyone who does any of these detestable things, such persons must be cut off from their people. Keep my requirements and do not follow any of the detestable customs that were. We get it, God. We get it. You don't have to keep repeating yourself. Chapter 19. The Lord said to Moses, Speak to the entire assembly of Israel and say to them, Be holy, because I, the Lord your God, am holy. I'm sorry. I just have to crack this joke. Do you mean holy like with an E? Because God, you certainly sound holy with an E. Verse 3. Each of you must respect your mother and father, and you must observe my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God. By the way, Jews still do this, and even I have heard of Jews that, like, they're visiting their relative in the hospital, okay? And they just will not drive home from the hospital because it is the Sabbath day. This is totally ridiculous, people. Verse 4. Do not turn to idols or make metal gods for yourselves. I am the Lord your God. When you sacrifice a fellowship offering to the Lord, sacrifice it in such a way that it will be accepted on its behalf. It shall be eaten on the day you sacrifice it or on the next day. Anything left over until the third day must be burned up. Okay, God, don't be picky, okay? They're offering it of their own free will. Just accept it graciously, okay? You don't have to be an asshole about it. Verse 7. If any of it is eaten on the third day, it is impure and will not be accepted. Whoever eats it will be held responsible because they have desecrated what is holy to the Lord. They must be cut off from their people. When you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edges of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Do not go over your vineyard a second time or pick up the grapes that have fallen. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner. I am the Lord your God. Thanks, God. Thanks for all the repetition. You know, I swear this book can be cut in half if you didn't repeat it all the time. I am the Lord. Like, are you really that, like, insecure? Verse 11. Do not steal. Do not lie. Do not deceive one another. Do not swear falsely by my name and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. Do not defraud or rob your neighbor. Do not hold back the wages of a hired worker overnight. Do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block in front of the blind, but fear your God. I am the Lord. Do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbor fairly. Do not go about spreading slander among your people. Ugh. Do not do anything that endangers your neighbor's life. Do not hate a fellow Israelite in your heart. Gee, God, that's great. I guess it's okay if we hate, like anybody from any of the other nations. We just can't hate our Israelites, our fellow Israelites. Okay. Rebuke your neighbor frankly, so you will not share in their guilt. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I guess that means you can seek revenge against people who aren't Israelites. Again, this isn't very hey Beej, this isn't moral. Oh, you can't do this because they're your people. How is that moral? Verse 19. Keep my decrees. Do not mate different kinds of animals. Why? Why not mate different kinds of animals? And before you even say that, you have to define what a kind is. This is something that we fight with the creationists all the time. What the fuck is a kind? Do not plant your field with two kinds of seed. Do not wear clothing woven of two kinds of material. Again, why? What does it matter? Verse 20. If a man sleeps with a female slave who is promised to another man, but who has not been ransomed or given her freedom, there must be due punishment. Yet they are not to be put to death, because she had not been freed. Gee, God, thanks for that mercy. Yet they are not to be put to death because she has not been freed. Okay. Verse 21. The man, however, must bring a ram to the entrance to the tent of meeting for a guilt offering to the Lord. Wow, finally we get men being held responsible for their idiotic and repulsive acts. Verse 22. With the ram of the guilt offering, the priest is to make atonement for him before the Lord for the sin he has committed, and his sin will be forgiven. When you enter the land and plant any kind of fruit tree, regard its fruit as forbidden. For 3 years you are to consider it forbidden. It must not be eaten. Again, why? In the 4th year, all its fruit will be holy, an offering of praise to the Lord. But in the 5th year, you may eat its fruit. In this way, your harvest will be increased. I am the Lord your God. Why? That's wasteful. That's wasteful. Verse 26. Do not eat any meat with the blood still in it. You already told us that, God. Do not practice divination or seek omens. Okay. The priests practice divination all the time, God, on your command. So, well, there's nothing like just, contradicting yourself. Or did you want us to forget that you had commanded the priests to practice divination? Verse 27. Do not cut the hair at the sides of your head or clip off the edges of your beard. Do not cut your bodies for the dead or put tattoo marks on yourselves. Do not degrade your daughter by making her a prostitute, or the land will turn to prostitution and be filled with wickedness. Observe my Sabbaths and have reverence for my sanctuary. Do not turn to mediums or seek out spiritists, or you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. Okay, so I know we haven't gotten there yet, but why didn't you punish Saul when he sought out the witch of Endor? That story is coming up a lot later. Verse 32. Stand up in the presence of the aged, show respect for the elderly, and revere your God. When a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. Do not use dishonest standards when measuring length, weight, or quantity. Use honest scales and honest weights, an honest ephah and an honest hin. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. Keep all my decrees and all my laws and follow them. I am the Lord. And by the way, since I'm on this, I am skipping a lot of times when he just says, I am the Lord, I am the Lord, because it gets old very quickly and it's just like him whining. Okay. So, you know, uh, so I'm skipping a lot of I am the Lord's. Chapter 20. The Lord said to Moses, say to the Israelites, any Israelite or any foreigner residing in Israel who sacrifices any of his children to Molech is to be put to death. The members of the community are to stone him. I myself will set my face against him and will cut him off from his people. For by sacrificing his children to Molech, he has defiled my sanctuary and profaned my holy name. Oh, so you don't care that they sacrificed a child. You only care that they sacrificed a child to another god. Yeah, for this god, sounds about right. Verse 4, if the members of the community close their eyes when that man sacrifices one of his children to Moloch, and if they fail to put him to death, I myself will set my face against him and his family, and will cut them off from their people, together with all who follow him and prostituting themselves to Moloch. Verse 6, I will set my face against anyone who turns to mediums and spiritists to prostitute themselves by following them, and I will cut them off from their people. Consecrate yourselves and be holy, because I am the Lord your God. Keep my decrees and follow them. Anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. Because they have cursed their father or mother, their blood will be on their own head. Yeah, somehow I don't think that was ever followed because, I mean, come on. Every single person has, at least in their head, cursed their parents. Yeah, somehow I don't think that was ever followed. Verse 10, if a man commits adultery with another man's wife, with the wife of his neighbor, both the adulterer and the adulteress are to be put to death. If a man has relations with his father's wife, why are you repeating this, God? Jeez. He's talking about father's wife again, and daughter-in-law, and all this shit that he's always been in. He's just like saying, okay, just put him to death, you know. Verse 14, if a man marries both a woman and her mother, it is wicked. Both he and they must be burned in the fire, so that no wickedness will be among you. Well, at least that's a change of pace. You're not stoning them. Hey, now you get to burn them in the fire. Not that that's much better, but I mean, hey, at least it's a change of pace. Verse 15, if a man has relations with an animal, he is to be put to death, and you must kill the animal. Why the hell are you killing the animal? The poor animal didn't have any choice in the matter. Leave the goddamn animal out of it. Of course, I don't think you should kill the man either. I mean, I I'm a woman, but I mean, come on. Um that that's not my thing, but I mean, why are you who are you to judge them? If they get a kick out of having sex with an animal, they should be able to do that. I'm just saying. If a woman approaches an animal, oh, come on, you just said this. Verse 17, if a man marries a sister, the daughter of either his, again, you just said this, God. You're just repeating yourself. If a man has relations with a woman during her monthly period, he has exposed the source of her flow, and she has also uncovered it. Both of them are to be cut off from their people. Um, and exactly how are the people supposed to know this? Like, is like the entire city in the bedroom? So, I mean, that's kind of awkward. Verse 19, do not have relations with the sister of either your mother or your father. Again, you've already said this. Relations with his aunt, you already said that. If a man marries his brother's wife, it is an act of impurity. He has dishonored his brother. They will be childless. Again, except if the brother died childless, then the man's brother gets the wife because he wants to bring up progeny to his brother or some kind of shit like that. Keep all my decrees and laws and follow them, so that the land where I am bringing you to live may not vomit you out. You must not live according to the customs of the nations I am going to drive out before you. Because they did all these things, I abhorred them. But I said to you, you will possess their land. I will give it to you as an inheritance, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, who has set you apart from the nations. I don't know Nevermore. Maybe he's just suffering from Alzheimer's. Verse 26. You're to be holy to me, because I, the Lord, am holy, and have set you apart from the nations to be my own. Verse 27. A man or a woman who is a medium or spiritist among you must be put to death. You are to stone them. Their blood will be on their own heads. Chapter 21. We're almost done, guys. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron. We know the priests are the sons of Aaron. You don't have to keep telling us that. And say to them, a priest must not make himself ceremonially unclean for any of his people who die, except for a close relative, such as his mother or father, his son or daughter, his brother, or an unmarried sister who is dependent on him, since she has no husband. For her he may make himself unclean. He must not make himself unclean for people related to him by marriage, and so defile himself. That's great, God. Wonderful. So much mercy. So much mercy. Verse 5. Priests must not shave their heads or shave off the edges of their beards or cut their bodies. They must be holy to their God and must not profane the name of their God, because they present the food offerings to the Lord, the food of their God. They are to be holy. They must not marry women defiled by prostitution or divorced from their husbands, because priests are holy to their God. Regard them as holy, because they offer up the food of your God. Consider them holy, because I, the Lord, am holy. I who make you holy. I just got to say this. When I'm reading this stuff, it's kind of like in my head. I mean, this reads like kind of porn to me. Like putting like strawberries in God's belly button, and um, putting whipped cream around it, and licking God's belly button, licking the whipped cream off God's belly button. I'm sorry. That's just what this makes me think of. Or just sucking God dick, like Godless Engineer says. Verse 9. If a priest's daughter defiles herself by becoming a prostitute, she disgraces her father. She must be burned in the fire. Why? Why? What the hell does she have to do with the vocation of her father. She didn't ask to be born to a priest. Verse 10, the high priest, the one among his brothers, who has had the anointing oil poured on his head, and who has been ordained to wear the priestly garments, must not let his hair become unkempt or tear his clothes. He must not enter a place where there is a dead body. He must not make himself unclean, even for his father or mother, nor leave the sanctuary of his God or desecrate it, because he has been dedicated by the anointing oil of his God. That's just despicable. Verse 13, the woman he marries must be a virgin. He must not marry a widow, a divorced woman, or a woman defiled by prostitution, but only a virgin from his own people, so that he will not defile his offspring among his people. I am the Lord, which makes him holy. Again, we know that, God. You don't have to repeat it. The Lord said to Moses, verse 17, say to Aaron, for the generations to come, none of your descendants who has a defect may come near to offer the food of his God. No man who has any defect may come near. No man who is blind or lame, disfigured or deformed. No man with a crippled foot or hand, or who is hunchback or a dwarf, or has any eye defect, or who has festering or running sores or damaged testicles. Way not to be discriminatory, God. Wow. Now we know how Christians get their discrimination. Verse 21, no descendant of Aaron, the priest, who has any defect is to come near to present the food offerings to the Lord. He has a defect. He must not come near to offer the food of his God. He may eat the most holy food of his God, as well as the holy food, yet because of his defect, he must not go near the curtain or approach the altar, and so desecrate my sanctuary. So Moses told this to Aaron and his sons and to all the Israelites. Gee, God, that's very nice of you. And last but not least, chapter 22. The Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron and his sons to treat with respect the sacred offerings the Israelites consecrate to me, so they will not profane my holy name. Say to them, for the generations to come, if any of your descendants is ceremonially unclean and yet comes near the sacred offerings that the Israelites consecrate to the Lord, that person must be cut off from my presence. If a descendant of Aaron has a defiling skin disease or a bodily discharge, he may not eat the sacred offerings until he is cleansed. He will also be unclean if he touches something defiled by a corpse or by anyone who has an emission of semen, or if he touches any crawling thing that makes him unclean, or any person who makes him unclean, whatever the uncleanness may be. Gee, God, you just. Wow. Like, you just, like, You just said that basically any man cannot serve you because all men have wet dreams. Women too, by the way, but especially men. So, um, great going, God. No, you don't have any priests. Uh, verse 6. The one who touches any such thing will be unclean till evening. He must not eat any of the sacred offerings unless he has bathed himself with water. When the sun goes down, he will be clean, and after that he may eat the sacred offerings, for they are his food. He must not eat anything found dead or torn by wild animals, and so become unclean through it. I am the Lord. The priests are to perform my service in such a way that they do not become guilty or die from treating it with contempt. No one outside a priest's family may eat the sacred offering, nor may the guest of a priest or his hired worker eat it. But if a priest buys a slave with money, or if slaves are born in his household, they may eat his food. If a priest's daughter marries anyone other than a priest, she may not eat any of the sacred contributions. But if a priest's daughter becomes a widow or is divorced, yet has no children, and she returns to live in her father's household, as in her youth, she may eat her father's food. No unauthorized person, however, may eat it. Anyone who eats a sacred offering by mistake must make restitution to the priest for the offering and add a fifth of the value to it. Why? Why? It's an honest mistake. Right, Lisa? Especially the thing about don't wear clothes with more than one fabric. Come on, that's ludicrous. But I will say it probably was easier back then to follow that particular law. Verse 15. The priests must not desecrate the sacred offerings the Israelites present to the Lord by allowing them to eat the sacred offerings, and so bring upon them guilt requiring payment. I am the Lord who makes them holy. We get it, God. Verse 17. The Lord said to Moses, Speak to Aaron and his sons and to all the Israelites and say to them, If any of you, whether an Israelite or a foreigner residing in Israel, presents a gift for a burnt offering to the Lord, either to fulfill a vow or as a free will offering, you must present male without defect from the cattle, sheep, or goats, in order that it may be accepted on your behalf. You know what, God? If they are making an offering of their own free will, don't be picky about it. Just accept whatever they're giving you. Verse 20. Do not bring anything with a defect, because it will not be accepted on your behalf. When anyone brings from the herd or flocks a fellowship offering to the Lord to fulfill a special vow, or as a free will offering, it must be without defect or blemish to be acceptable. Again, you just said that. Do not offer to the Lord the blind, the injured, or the maimed, or anything with warts, or festering, or running sores. Do not place any of these on the altar as a food offering presented to the Lord. You may, however, present as a freewill offering an ox or a sheep that is deformed or stunted, but it will not be accepted in fulfillment of a vow. You must not offer to the Lord an animal whose testicles are bruised. crushed, torn, or cut. Wow. So now God cares about testicles. Great. You must not do this in your own land, and you must not accept such animals from the hand of a foreigner and offer them as the food of your God. You will not be accepted on your behalf because they are deformed and have defects. Who the fuck cares? The Lord said to Moses, when a calf, a lamb, or a goat is born, it is to remain with its mother for 7 days. From the 8th day on, it will be acceptable as a food offering presented to the Lord. Do not slaughter a cow or a sheep and its young on the same day. When you sacrifice a thank offering to the Lord, sacrifice it in such a way that it will be accepted on your behalf. You know, God, these offerings of their own free will, you should just be happy that they're sacrificing, that they're giving you blood for the blood God, and not be picky about it. Verse 30, it must be eaten that same day. Leave none of it till morning. Keep my commands and follow them. I am the Lord. Do not profane my holy name, for I must be acknowledged as holy by the Israelites. I am the Lord who made you holy and who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord. And now you know why God is so insecure. He has to keep repeating this shit. I am God. 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 I know, right? Come on, people. Honestly, you know what? Reading this book all the way through is what made me an atheist. Okay. I swear. Okay. I swear. It is the strongest evidence to deconvert someone for Christianity that I have ever seen in my entire life. I'm not the only one who deconverted after reading the Bible. A lot of other people have done it too. All I got to say is, you know what? The Catholic Church should never have let the Bible be translated into different languages so that people could read it. I'm just saying that was like the dumbest thing ever. Oh, Lisa. Um, one of the I studied with the JWs too. One of the things that made me really question whether I should be like studying with them at all is that this the lady like got out a hat with a veil on it, you know, and she said, well, see, um, this is my husband and he's a baptized witness and I'm going to be teaching in front of him. So I've got to cover my head. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? But the thing that did it for me, the thing that did it for me to kick him out and never have him come by again. And this may sound silly to you, I mean, the hat thing with the veil was silly, right? No, an actual hat with a veil on it. I swear, it was an actual hat with a veil on it. So um, anyway, but the biggest thing, I mean, after that happened, I was like, these people are just nuts. But after that happened, um, and you may make fun of me for, I'm being honest with you guys, uh, but, um, but what did it for me? What absolutely did it for me was, um, the woman insulted my cat. At that time, I only had Callie. Um, but she insulted Callie, and I kicked him out. Nobody, nobody insults my cat. Uh, but I'm telling you what, I was like, what the fuck are you doing with that hat? So anyway, yeah, yeah, Nevermore. They are a weird bunch. Sorry, Marianne. I know you used to be one. Sorry, I don't want to offend you, but still, I mean, they are weird. Damn, no wonder they only have 8 million members. I know, right, Beej? I'm like, you ain't insulting my cat. Get out of here and don't come back. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. Yeah, I know. I have a horrible singing voice. I just had to get that out of my system. I know, right, Lisa? I mean, it's just like, what? You know? Um, oh, and the seraphim. Um, I don't know how religious. I know I am speaking to people who were religious in the past, and I don't know how religious you used to be, but the seraphim, I'm like, how the fuck are we supposed to believe the seraphim exist? Because the seraphim are supposed to have 3 sets of wings. Okay? 3 sets of wings. One set to cover their eyes, one set to fly, and one set to cover their feet. Hey, ugly watchtower. I mean, it's like, that's ridiculous. I mean, I would believe in Hermes before I would believe in something like the seraphim. Hermes, the Greek god who's got wings on his feet. That makes more sense than a fucking seraphim. Oh, um, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, he who shall not be named on my channel, and if you've been watching for a while, you know who I'm talking about. He goes, Yeah, the people um just glued a bunch of feathers onto a diplodocus. Like, give it a try, man. It's not gonna hurt that much. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? That's Diplodocus is not a theropod, you idiot. But anyway, um, he who shall not be named on my channel also said, um, do you think do you think pigs and dogs are gonna sprout wings or turn pink? If you want that, I swear, if you want it, he said that. Go to Logic's channel and go to Logic's channel and I think it's the episode of the Texas sized pig where that comes up. Um, it's the hello, my name is you know who. Um, but yeah, could you elaborate on that ugly watchtower? Oh, Rod with a snake. Okay, gotcha. And actually, ugly watchtower. Actually, um, in Canaan, because the Exodus never happened, folks. The 40 years in the wilderness never happened. Okay, in Canaan, the snake was the sacred object of Asherah. And by the way, um, I'm going to see if I can dig up anything more on Asherah because somebody has asked me about it. So I am going to try to dig up more on Asherah. She is the wife of El. Um, so yeah. Oh God, hang on, damn it. All right. What does anyone here think about the snake around the rod? I find it idolatry. Yeah. And then Marianne says, I agree. How is it any different than the golden calf? Exactly. Exactly. Oh, but wait a minute. God told you to do that. So I guess it's not idolatry if God told you to do it. Whatever. Um, only some snakes, never more. But I don't know enough about snakes to know which ones are venomous and which ones aren't. So I just stay away from them. Now, the little ones, I don't mind too much. Um, like, the ones you see in legitimate pet stores like PetSmart. I don't mind the little ones too much because their fangs really aren't that long to get much of a grip on your skin anyway. Um, oh, sorry, Nevermore. I didn't get the joke. Uh, so anyway, um, yeah, Junk Shop Library says I should probably stop reading the Bible, but I'm not gonna because I have a lot of shit to say about it, you know, and I mean it is kind of fun, especially when you get to the point where you're like, "Well, wait a minute, you just said something totally opposite in like the last chapter or the chapter before, and now you're saying something totally contradiction." I know, right, Lisa? And we're going to get into numbers, and numbers is very boring. I have to be honest with you. Numbers is very, very boring. But we've got, I think, one more day, one more Saturday live stream of Leviticus, and then yeah. Um so yeah. Well, thanks for showing up, everyone. I really love you coming and hanging out with me, and that's about it for today. Don't forget we got Atheist Church tomorrow at 4 p.m. uh Pacific Daylight Time. um I know not everybody's in the same time zone. So it is Pacific Daylight Time uh, at 4 p.m. And we will be talking about the inerrancy of the Bible. So you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you later. Bye.